So what I wanted to do was just have a little bit of a review of the profitability planner that we did what seems like an eternity ago now. It was technically last year, but really was only about 6 weeks, 7 weeks ago. Have a bit of a look at sort of a couple of models. So there's a model which is very common in the retail business called recency, frequency, and monetary value. That's quite helpful. You don't have to be in the retail business to sort of get some thought process going as a result of looking at that. Maybe look at some examples, and then maybe look at the kind of the successful things or the successful behaviors of kind of marketing managers that are focusing in at different times on a number of different things. Okay, so that's what we'll try and get covered off today. Okay, so if you remember, I don't know whether anybody remembers this sort of little tiny noddy profitability calculator that I put together. You put in the initial spend and then you put the repeat spend. So that was assuming you were going to get more spend from your customers as you go through. Spend in the first year, spend after the annual spend after the years, number of years of retention, that kind of gives you some kind of value. And then the referral, and we talked about referrals last week, how that can, fundamentally that can double the profitability that you get from any one customer if you've got a good referral program in there, and it gives you some kind of, lifetime profit. So of those numbers, if it's only the initial spend number that we're using to drive the lifetime customer value, then that's harder work for us to find customers and charge them enough money that it's a good business model. So obviously the referrals is very key, but also it's this repeat purchase thing that it is key to have a thought process around and have some structure around. So as usual, I'm not going to tell you the answer today. I'm going to give you some thoughts. The answers come out of your business models and what makes sense to you and what you can implement. Okay. Is anybody familiar with or maybe heard of recency, frequency, monetary value, RFM, as a kind of a concept? Not heard of that? No. We've got Craig, Leanne and Russell who are on dark screen mute as well. So we'll assume they're saying no. But
so I'm here. No, I haven't. No.
I know you're there, no. Craig. Yeah, cool. Okay, so the kind of the concept of recency, frequency, monetary value, and it did originate, I think, in retail. That's where I've seen it used and talked about it at retailers conferences. It's really about, okay, if I'm the marketing manager and I'm sat there and I'm thinking, how do I increase the amount of value that I get out of my customer base? Okay, and if I've got a retail shop, I've got a physical restriction on what I can put in there. And yes, I can think about range. Yes, I can think about giving something more facias and and that type of stuff. Yes, I can do all that. But what I'm also maybe thinking about is, well, the things I can really influence maybe are how recently as a customer. So, if you're a customer, let's say you go to Sainsbury's, let's say you're a Sainsbury's customer and you scan your card so they know when you were in there, they know what you bought and they know all that. How recently have my customers made a purchase? Because if I want to increase my revenue from the store or from the group of stores or from the UK or from, the business as a whole, if I can have customers that are, if I can pull forward the purchasing and make them buy more recently, not more frequently, more recently, then I'm going to increase the numbers. Okay, cool. So my objective there is to reduce the time between customer purchases. Does that make sense? If I'm thinking about frequency, so how often does the buyer buy? How frequently do they come? So how frequently, in the retail analogy, how frequently do they come into the store? And if I can increase the number of times they come in a year, then I'm making more money out of them. Okay, so my objective there would be to increase the number of times that they buy within the year. And then how much do they spend? So what's the basket spend? how can I increase the spend for that they put in their basket when they do come in. And if I can just nibble away at each of those three, then I'm going to have a significant impact on the business, because if I can get people to come in more frequently and pulling forward the ones that haven't been in for a while and increase the spend, then I'm much more likely to make more money from them. So again, just following through the kind of the retail, anybody that's ever been into Tesco's, for example, has got a Tesco's club card. You know, Tesco's were probably the first to really sort this out in their business model. They were the first to have the club card, and maybe they weren't exactly the first to have the club card, but they were the first to really have very, very sophisticated algorithms. Let's just see if very first to have very sophisticated algorithm. Yeah, okay, no worries. To drive forward what they were going to do. And the mechanism that Tesco's use is you get through the post, you get a bunch of vouchers, don't you? So you get a bunch of vouchers, and on the left-hand side of your bunch of vouchers, there's some kind of money off shopping vouchers. So what you'll find if you pay attention to what they're doing is that, and obviously each of those is individual, each of those sheets of vouchers is individually printed based on your shopping habits. Well, not actually individually, they put you into cohorts. So they look at the data and put you into cohorts and then say, okay, we've got some people here who haven't been in our store in the last 5 weeks. So let's send them a voucher that's maybe £50 off or £20 or £30 off or something a bit more significant off your shop. If you'd been in Tesco's in the last 2 weeks, they may not send you that voucher. So that may not be one of the vouchers that's on there, or it might be £10. So what they're trying to do is to just pull forward. They want to encourage people who haven't been in their store for a while to come back into their store, and they're proactively doing that. The rest of the vouchers, really what that's all about is to increase your spend. So what they're looking at is, well, what do you normally buy? And that's, you know, you probably will find they don't give you vouchers for things that you consistently buy, because what will be the point in that? They give you vouchers for things that you don't normally buy but are kind of connected to the things that you do buy, because they want to say, hang on, if you buy X, you might be interested in this. And it's often a premium item, and they give you some money off, and they're trying to just get you to trial. But the hard work is to get you in the store. Once you're in the store and once all the goods are in the store, their costs are already done. So they're just you know, they're only then playing with a margin to get you to take something off the shelf or not take it off the shelf. So they've got a significant margin to play with if you isolate the margin into just that component. So and that's what they're doing. So okay, cool. So what could be our strategies? That's all very sophisticated. And Tesco's have, I hate to think about the amount of data Tesco's now have in data storage somewhere, and the size of the algorithms that are running across it, you know, must be frightening. It's an enormous amount of data. We're not doing that. We've got Keap and Infusionsoft, and we're kind of looking at things. But you know, what we could do is, okay, calculate the repurchase time for each of your products. So if you thought about your main products, your core products, and said, well, how frequently are these bought? You know, and can I get those bought more frequently? So, you know, clearly for a you know, an accounting practice where the main product is annual accounts, then no, I can't actually get that bought more frequently. There's nothing that I can maybe do to pull forward the purchase of that. And I'm not really talking about split it into monthly payments. That's, you know, that's a nice strategy, but I'm not really talking about that. There are some products that you kind of know it's an annual product and I can't have it bought less than annually, because that just doesn't make sense. But for the rest of us, there are often things that you go, well, our core products is this. people who buy, if it's recruitment services, for example, if it was just a regular recruitment service rather than the sort of stuff Jamie does as well. But it's like, well, my clients tend to recruit somebody every 4 months. Okay, so if a client hasn't placed a recruitment order with me inside 3 months, well, what I want to start doing is encouraging some kind of strategy to encourage them to buy more sooner. So if your product is consumable, then you can kind of figure out the consumption of it and say, well, if I sell you 3 weeks supply of dog food, and you haven't bought any more dog food after 4 weeks, I know that either your dog's died or you're getting your dog food somewhere else. So I would know that, okay, I can do something to pull forward your lapsed purchase by doing something to encourage you back. And if you usually buy 4 weeks worth of dog food in a go, what I can start doing is maybe doing some bulk, offering you some bulk purchases, but a little bit for your due to order, in order to just pull forward your ordering pattern a little bit. Now, on a one-to-one basis, it doesn't necessarily make any difference, because a dog can only consume a year's worth of food in one go. But if you pull forward a significant number of your purchase cycles, so instead of doing 12 purchase cycles, on average, you do 12.5 purchase cycles across your customer base in a year. Now that can be a significant amount of money. So having some strategies to just make people buy sooner is worth considering. Okay. If we look at frequency, so how frequently do people buy? Well, okay, if you're on a monthly subscription, you buy monthly, don't you? Okay, if you're on an annual subscription, well, you buy annually, don't you? Yeah, but what about upsells and other products to get you to buy more frequently than annual? Okay, so it are the things that you can be doing. I know that you're a member and I know that you're paying monthly, but what I want to do is just to get you to buy a couple of more things during the year, so that you buy a little bit more frequently than monthly. And if I consistently do that across my customer base, I consistently get more money coming into the door. So I need to kind of think about, well, what is my strategy for that? Monetary value basket, how much do people spend? Well, the classic, which we've all seen, supermarkets did get a little bit of stick for at one point, although I think they've gone back to it now, is putting sweeties and magazines and things like that by the tills. Okay, so I've already done shopping, I'm going out the door, I'm just coming past and I see a magazine or a box of Maltesers or a Mars bar or something, and I just, I'll have that, I throw it in the basket. So they just increase the basket count as people are already making their purchase, and supermarkets are very, very switched on to doing that, to the point where they actually got criticized by having sweeties there, the kids at pushchair height, didn't they? So the kids pick it up when they're in the pushchair, they pick it up off the side and throw it in the basket, and mum doesn't even see it go in there, and then they made that little upsell. But what's your analogy? What's your equivalent of that? Is it upsells for each purchase? Could you bundle some things together? So if you're buying my membership, which is X, well, this month we've got this other thing that fits with it. It makes sense, and you can have that, some kind of promotional deal to just increase the spend on each transaction. Is there something you could do with that? Direct upsells, when people are signing up to membership, you can have increased levels of membership, or you can have things that go in. If people call you up and have conversations with you, then do the people that are taking the orders, do they have a little script to run somebody through to just do an upsell of your service products? Because if they don't, then maybe if they had, then they would just sell it, just increase the basket size in your business by, 10, 15, 20 pounds, which could be a significant percentage. 100, 200 pounds. If you're selling thousands of pounds worth of stuff with your service, then, all the things that you could put in there. If you've got a little kickers franchise, then, you're starting to look at things like, well, what about t-shirts? What about kind of fitness trackers? What about energy drinks and things like that can just be sold around the edges. Now, most of the time when you're running a session for kids, the coach is pretty busy that's going on, but is there a little stand that can be wheeled out? Is it worthy to have somebody that's there like a little kind of a little food truck or something that's there at the same time as all this activities going on, coffee for the parents and energy drinks for the kids, and that just adds into the amount of money that you're taking in, thinking it kind of maybe outside the box a little bit. And maybe the person doing that would pay for themselves to do that. Maybe one of the coaches could do that. Maybe it's somebody else that's kind of in the business that could do that.
So can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
Yeah, just obviously my business is service-led, as you know, and I think one of the inherent challenges in terms of repeat orders is a change of stakeholder. Obviously, It's relationship-driven. You build the relationship, and then they either work with you somewhere else, or you don't follow where they've gone, and then you kind of almost have to start with that client again because you've got new stakeholders, even though you've already worked with that business in the past. So, I mean, are there any kind of advice, tools, strategies you would advise? Because I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges when it comes to repeat business. Not the fact that we haven't kind of wowed them, like the first time, and it's just inherently when the stakeholders move on, you find yourself kind of having to build new relationships all over again for the same business.
Sure. I mean, there's a couple of questions in there. One of the answers is stalking, of course. So when people are moving around, you're stalking where they're going and figuring out, getting back in with them. Actually, on LinkedIn, LinkedIn Sales Navigator does tell you that people have joined a business inside the last 90 days, I think it is. So you can actually target new people in, even if it's not your current relationships. You can still target new people in. In the context of this, Jamie, what I'm kind of thinking about is, okay, if I was the marketing manager, what I would do is I'd come in one morning and I'd look at the data, and then I'd put all those people into my automated little campaign. So I'm thinking for this, I'm thinking more on a kind of a mass Keap marketing to my database level rather than the individuals. If somebody has left a business and therefore you're left with no contact, the impact is that you might not get the next order, but really it's a slightly different problem that we're discussing there, which is, okay, well, how do I ingratiate myself with a new guy in? And that might be something like, okay, the new guy in needs a shock and awe pack. Last guy out, we had a relationship, we had trust. New guy in, I know there's a new guy. What do I do about it? Do I send him the welcome pack and so pleased that you've joined the business. We're great supporters of this business, and we were working with Joe and we did this and we achieved this, and these are the processes, and I understand how your business works and how you're operating, but obviously you as the new guy in, I'd love to know what your views are and your thoughts going forward. So can we have a meeting? Here's my shock and awe pack, here's my book, here's my things, here's your bar of chocolates. Make it, all the suppliers are going to be wanting to talk to the new guy. Maybe you're the only one that sent them a box of chocolates.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And case studies on themselves. The last guy out was really smart because he hired me and we did this. You know, sometimes the new guy in particularly wants to do something different.
It's quite interesting, actually. We do have case studies, but I don't think I've ever sent a case study to the business when they've lapsed, funny enough, about their own company.
About themselves. You know. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
What is the perfect case study, isn't it? You know, it demonstrates that you know them and that, you know what you're talking about, and you don't have to go through an education process to understand them, because you already understand them. Yeah. And you can support the new guy in. So interesting, you're new in your role. Love to support you, whatever your objectives are and however your boss is measuring you. I can take some of the pressure off you with the recruitment part of it, because you can just leave it to me and we can sort it out. Can we have a telephone conversation to discuss the strategy of doing that? So it's probably more of a continuity, a bit of brainstorming around the continuity than necessarily repeat purchase, but it's the same context. But yeah, good question. Cool. Okay. Next thing to just think about is, if you remember, I can't remember which of the decks it was in, but we did talk about 4 categories of products which I'd lifted out of Daniel Priestley's book 24 Assets. So gifts, products for prospects or tripwires, whichever terminology you wish to use, your core product, and then your products for clients. So you can imagine, you might say, okay, well, I've got my core product embedded. These people are buying my core product. That's actually great. So what are they buying? What's the other products that you're going to sell them? Right. So I use a lot of dental analogies, as you know, but it was not uncommon for a dentist to sit down. I think I've probably told this story before, with a patient in the chair, looks in the mouth and goes, "You've had your teeth whitened?" And the patient said, "Yeah, I had it done 2 weeks ago. It's great, isn't it?" And the dentist says, "Well, we do teeth whitening. Why didn't you buy it from me?" Well, where's that effect? And the patient says, "Well, I didn't know you did it, because all you ever talk to me about is open wide, pokey, pokey, poke, get out as quickly as you can, see you in 6 months. I didn't even know you did teeth whitening." The other bloke, I saw a Facebook ad or an ad on the side of a bus or something, and I just went in there and got my teeth whitened. I'm still coming to you for my dentistry. Okay, well, do we really explain to everybody all the other products that we have in terms of products for clients? If they bought X, do you have a kind of a map in your mind, or even on a piece of paper, which is, well, people who buy this level of membership, for example, well, they should buy either this, or this next. Do you have that? Have you charted that out? Is that something you've thought about? Because if it isn't, maybe there's something in that to say, they could buy, you could buy this, they could buy that. In a different career, when I worked for IBM, we used to go in and kind of do an audit. I kind of invented this. I'm going to claim that I invented this. I certainly invented it for me. Whether somebody else was doing it or not, I don't know. But go into the IT director, often the finance director, and we just do a little project review. Don't forget, they'd implemented SAP. They'd probably spent about 15-20 million pounds with us on services over the last 2 years. So it was not an insignificant thing. We changed their core ERP system to SAP. So I was fairly ingrained with the contact with the client. But I'd have a little chart which has got years across the top and basically blanks down the side, and I'd just be writing in what are we doing next? What project are we doing next? And what are we doing after that? And when are you thinking of doing that? And I'd basically try and walk out the door with the next 5 years of sales already mapped out with them. Then it was like there was no contract. I didn't have to do it, but I then knew what I was selling to them for the next 5 years. And there was a lot of zeros at the end of all these sort of projects. And anybody else trying to get in would have to, they'd have to dislodge an already working thought process. We know we're going to work on, I don't know, our warehouse management systems. next year, and this is how we're going to do it, and it needs to integrate to SAP, and it needs to do this, and the IBM team did that bit, so they're the best people to do this bit. And my job as the account manager was just kind of nailing all that down. So by the time anybody else came in and tried to sell them a different warehouse management system, the IT director and the finance director were going, well, I'm not sure about that. I'd rather just keep going with these guys. And I kind of pre-sold it. Okay, cool. So if you take that analogy and you look at your customers and maybe in cohorts, if not individuals, good. So what are the things that you're going to sell? You could write down the top 20 customers, couldn't you? You could write down your top 20 customers and figure out what you're going to sell to your top 20 customers over the next 5 years. If you're in the recruitment business, Jamie, you can start saying, okay, well, I know we've recruited this, but I know that if this is successful and this is the direction they're going in and this is the thinking, I know that in 2022, they'll probably be looking to grow this department. Cool. So I'll start working on selling it in January 2021. So that by the time we get to 22 and they start to go, right, we need to recruit some people. No, well, we've already done that. We're already way down the line. We've got the job descriptions figured out. We've got this figured out. We've got this figured out. And it's almost impossible for somebody else to come in and steal that business from you if you've planned it that far ahead. Okay. Now, maybe you can't do that for every client if you've got lots of clients, but maybe you can do it for the top 10 clients. Are they buying everything that you sell? If not, why not? There might be perfectly valid reasons, of course, why they don't need one of the things that you sell. It doesn't make any sense. That's fine. You don't, that's okay. You're not trying to force them to buy something they don't actually need. But what's the plan a little bit longer? Has everybody that's bought any of your tripwires, your low value things, have they bought the core product yet? Because we do promotions, don't we? We're fantastic and do some lead gen stuff, and there they are. And we got 2% conversion on the day, and then we converted another 10%, and then we moved on to the next thing. Well, what about those 80% that did buy the tripwire, the lead magnet product, if there was one, 2 years ago? Where are they now? Have we got them mapped in of where we're actually going to come back to them and sell them the kind of the core product? And that's kind of there's a bit of a thinking there, but most of the thinking comes from it's not an individual. It's a marketing manager that's looking at a database, like the Tesco's marketing manager is looking at a database and doing some analysis and saying, I've got 300 people that fall into this category, therefore I'm going to do this, rather than what can I do for this individual client. I think that's worthy to do, certainly for your bigger clients, but what I'm really thinking about is looking at the cohorts of people and saying, is there something that we should be doing for these cohorts, and kind of mapping that through. Okay, so the kind of data questions, when you think about that, so the data questions are, how many contacts do I have in my database? How many are engaged versus not engaged? And by that, I mean opening your emails and reading your stuff. Do you know that number? How many consumed the gift thing, lead magnet, or whatever it was that, that we sent to them that they looked for? How many consumed that? How many bought the product for prospects? How many bought the core product? How many bought the product for customers? Okay. And the question is, well, why? I don't know why. I just need to know the data. Show me the data and I'll start to think about what I can do. Because if the data comes back and says, well, there's only 10 people that are in that category, fine, I'm not going to bother to do anything about those 10 people. Whereas the data comes back and says, actually, we've got 600 or 700 people in this category. Well, maybe then I need to put some energy into thinking about those 600 or 700. And if you think about what you ask Infusionsoft and Keap, it's give me a list of. So give me a list of consumers that bought core product X, but have not bought, product for customer kind of Y. give me a list of people who've bought one particular product but not bought the core product. And that's probably tagging, or it's purchase segmentation. You know, I spent quite a bit of time the other day looking in Xero to try and figure out what intelligence Xero had to tell me anything that I gave a monkeys about as a marketeer, as opposed to a financial accountant. And the conclusion I came to is not much at all, nothing. In fact, it was nothing. It really didn't help me. So the data's probably held in kind of the transaction records. I would have had to have downloaded loads of transactions out of Xero to get to this. So it's probably setting up my Infusionsoft systems so that things get tagged correctly, or I'm searching across the right sorts of things. Okay, and then I'm going to save that search and put it on my dashboard so that it's visible to me as people go into that cohort. It kind of, I can see the number and it grows. What I'm going to do, I can't tell you until I've had the inspiration. But as a marketing manager, what I'm looking at is how do I increase the revenue that comes in? And as we know, it's not always sell the product to more people. Sometimes it will get more money out of our existing people, and that's the kind of the thinking process that I'm kind of edging around now. You know, so you can imagine a saved search, which is, you know, groups of contacts, cohorts of contacts. Well, give me a list of people who've recently bought a product in the last 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. Okay, so in Infusionsoft, in Keap, how one would do that is you'd say, well, when a product's purchased, put a tag on them. 30 days later, take the tag off and put the next tag on them. 30 days after that, take the 60-day tag off and put the 90-day tag on them. So you can imagine a little sequence, if you can imagine your little sequences in Infusionsoft. And it's almost like you know, an AR debtors ledger, 30, 60, 90 days. And it's just, well, what's the time periodicity of these people? And that'll be so easy to set up in Infusionsoft, and it gives you groups of people. Okay, cool. How frequently do people buy? Once, twice a year, 3 times a year? Okay, that's easy to do as well, isn't it? It's like, okay, when they buy something, when they buy anything, let's increase a number in a custom field from 0, make the number 1. And when they buy the next thing, make it 2, or swap the tag around. You know, it's relatively easy to, you know, count. You can make the dumb CRM actually do some counting for you. You just set up your little utility processes to do that, and then that gives you groups of people. So these people have all bought. These people all buy from me once a year. Great. These people all buy from me twice a year. Great. What am I going to do now? I don't know. Now I have to be creative and do something about making them buy one more time. Okay, cool. So if I had a group of people that bought once, and I ran a promotion and I could get 20% of them to buy again inside the same year, then I've impacted on my purchase frequency. 20% of my database, I've now improved the purchase frequency from 1 to 2. Well, if you do that a few times in the year, that'll be significant. You know, that will make a significant difference to the amount of revenue that's coming in. It's not really automated programs in this case. I don't think. I think it's more thought process from the marketing manager that's just doing a bit of analysis that day and being a bit creative that day and doing a short, sharp promotion. Average transaction size, again, you could easily just sort your customers by an average transaction size to give you a clue as to, you know, what's the value of the transaction that goes in. You'd have to kind of analyze all your transactions and say, well, my average transaction is X. So if I can increase, if anybody that hasn't spent X with me, they're underperforming. And anybody that spends more than that is overperforming. So when there's a transaction that comes through, how do I make people upsell? You know, do I have an upsell on all my products? No. can I invent an upsell that goes into one of my core products? Yes. Okay, let's do that and let's get it in place and let it run. Will it be successful? Don't know. Until I let it run, I don't know whether it'll be successful. I rather hope so, but that's the gig, isn't it? It's just creating things, let them run, see what works, see what doesn't work, tweak it, change it. I don't have to solve all my problems all at the same time. I could just solve one of those things and just test something, put it in place, let it run, see what happens. Does that make sense? Nobody's saying no. We'll take that as a yes. Okay, cool. So a couple of sort of examples. Customers that only bought my core product A, well, do they know of the existence of the product for customer 1? Are those sorts of people the right people that should be buying my upsell, my other product? Okay, they didn't buy it at the immediate upsell at the time that they bought. There's no worries, but I can still sell it to them. I can still sell teeth whitening to a patient that's been in the dental practice for the last 10 years. That's okay. I can keep doing that. So what would I do? Maybe use case benefit type things and built into case studies. So it's kind of the use case explanation as well as the case study. I know that you consume membership at this level and do this, but I've got a number of our members that also get benefit from this, and this is why they get benefit from that. And here's a testimonial from one of my customers about that. So as I'm receiving that communication, I'm like, I may not have made the linkage, but until you explained the use case benefit, now I can see, yeah, that could actually benefit me. I could get some benefit for that. Tell me more about that, or yes, please sign me up for that particular service. So, I think the communication needs to be case benefits as opposed to case studies, if that differentiation makes any sense to you. Okay, so customers who have not bought product Z in the last 12 months, well, okay, maybe I send them a voucher. I mean, I don't want to send a voucher to people that have bought it. That would be kind of crazy. But anybody that hasn't bought it, maybe they could be encouraged with some kind of voucher, some kind of incentive to buy it again. Maybe I can put together a little kind of bulk purchase. So, you bought these services, but actually I can put together a great deal on this and this and this and this. Maybe there's some, if it's membership type materials, and there's some access to some other things that I can bulk together. So, in accounting practice, it might be, well, you get your annual accounts, but we actually do a quarterly review. You don't take advantage of it, but here we go. We're going to bundle this in here. Maybe we're going to introduce the idea of, Futurely Practice Advisor and bring that in and do predict and, some added value things with another piece of software that you've found that they may get value from, kind of bring that in. Maybe there's some paid for products and services around the edges that you do occasionally, maybe not very often, but you could bundle that together with your best customers, psychometric testing or, whatever you've got going on around the edges, that you could bundle it together and make a bulk purchase out of it, or a bundled purchase out of it. Bundle, yeah. So new prospects, existing customers, all the stuff that you can stick together that would help those people. Ascension model. So is everybody familiar with kind of the ascension model of membership? So get, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, platinum plus, titanium, titanium plus, titanium plus plus. As soon as you've got more than 2 people in one level, you need to invent the next level, because one of them will want to ascend. There are a group of buyers. If you can find them, they're brilliant. About 5% of your customers will buy anything and everything that you sell. So if you invent a new level, they'll just upgrade to it. My kind of stepfather's one of those sorts of people. It's like he walks into a shop and says, "What's the most expensive thing you've got? I'll have it." He's not interested in bargaining, and he wants the best that you've got available. He's just a premium buyer of everything, and he is just upgrades. He doesn't buy things he doesn't need, but yeah, if he's gonna have something, he wants the very best there is. And there is a group of people that are just like that. And if you keep inventing things, they'll just keep buying them. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that you invent rubbish that nobody wants and scam them for it, but as the marketing manager there, you go, well, we've got all these people at the top level. Great, well, okay, we need to invent another level. Make sure that the level that we invent is profitable. Make sure that the level that we invent is valuable, but maybe you need more products, and you can invent more products and bring people kind of up the levels. Do you have an ascension path for your bronze buyers to move to silver buyers? What's the process? Why are they bronze buyers? Often when people come into a membership or buy the first thing, they might buy a lower cost thing because they're just testing you out a little bit. They haven't bought from you before. They're just testing you out. They're happy to go at that level, and they just want to see what's happened. Like 3 years later, they're still bronze buyers. And you talk to them and they go, yeah, no, I would have actually, now as you mention it, if you'd have told me what silver was, I would have upgraded because I trust you now. It's just you never told me what the next level was. You never put any effort into upgrading me. And because I'm busy, I didn't even think about it. So do you have, if you've got membership levels or kind of groups of customers, perhaps some of them will easily just kind of upgrade because they will, because they're more than happy to. You just didn't tell them. Okay, so let's just pull this up. So I think this is a kind of almost like a habitual thing for the marketing manager in a business to do. And for lots of us, and for lots of my customers, the marketing manager is the business owner, is the main doer. It's just another hat that you wear within it. But okay, periodically, I'm actually just going to do some analysis. I'm just going to look at my data. I don't know what I'm going to do after I've looked at my data, apart from get some aspirin. But I'm just going to look for my data and see if it tells me anything. Then I might think about putting some. All right, I want to find these people. Can I put some tracking in place that makes it easier to find those people next time I look for those people? Okay, figure that out, get that in place. And then kind of review the segments, so, okay, I've got some people here. Where should they go? What's the next step for them? Should I subdivide those a little bit? How does that all look? And at that point, that's when you start to invent campaigns that, address those objectives. So the objectives are I want people to buy more often. I want them to buy more frequently. And I want them to spend more when they buy. So if they're my objectives, what are the campaigns based on my analysis of the cohorts that I could do? Put something in place and then you repeat it. I don't know, maybe every 3 months, 6 months, spend a bit of time reviewing the data, the purchase data of your customer base, and see if it tells you anything that you can quite easily do something about as a one-off promotion. Typically, if you have a product business and you go in the warehouse and you find a lot of stock that came in and you'd forgotten about it and it's there and it's filling up the warehouse, suddenly you come up with a great promotional idea to shift it, don't you? But rather than wait until the stock builds up, is the things that we can do more proactively to just get that in place. So I think it's more insightful reflection rather than spontaneous genius. You know, it'd be great if we were all spontaneously geniuses, but even then I can only be a spontaneous genius for a very short period of time in any 1 month. You know, if I can reflect on things and put sort of tracking in place and make the whole repeat purchase a little bit more automated and a little bit more systematized, I guess is as good a word as any, to do this, then suddenly I've nibbled away at or rather than nibble away, I've increased my profitability just by nibbling little bits as I go along. Does that make sense?